Hi guys. I'm so Mr. Sci-Fi is now live as well. Hi guys. So we're doing the table and the Mr. Sci-Fi live cast, and here we are. And Judith, I guess she's frozen. Is that right? Where are we with all of that?
She's frozen again. Yes.
Huh. Okay. Well, maybe we should go on to someone else. Okay. Well, maybe we should go on. There we go. Okay. Here we are. Hi guys. So what's up? Okay, there we go. So hello everyone. Hello everyone. It's the table. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I don't know. I don't think we have any Mr. Sci-Fi questions yet. So Carol, why don't you take your turn? How about that?
Do we know who's the host?
No, we don't. But
I've never been first in my life. This is a first.
Oh,
Great.
wow, great.
So I'm eating chicken, turnips, and squash.
Wow.
Great.
Very nice.
It doesn't get better.
I'm having problems with my instead of when I go to Zoom all day, it goes right to Chrome and it doesn't let me access people.
Huh. That's strange.
So I have a young man coming over at 10 o'clock tonight to help me.
Oh, that's
They're making
great.
fun of me because I told them he was 21.
Huh.
I realized 23, so they have to stop making fun of me.
Yes, that's funny.
All is well. Yes, my new literary manager said work on the pilot to your second book, and it's just flowing out of me because it's already written.
Great.
That's
I'll
great.
leave the book as an outline. I'm having a really good time doing it. I'm thinking of every part in it I want to play. Right? I
Great.
don't think I can play a 16-year-old Puerto Rican girl that well, but
Well, that's a
I
stretch.
So, it's fun and
Sorry.
what
Hold on.
happened?
The light fell over. It's okay. Don't worry.
Like Halloween, man.
Nothing to worry about. All is well. Okay.
Oh, well, and I finished reading the Martian Chronicles. Sorry, Mark, it's
Great.
not my favorite book.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh well. C'est la vie.
And everything is Macwood. Everything was good, and I'm glad to see you all.
Great.
Yay. Well, good for
Yay.
you. Wow.
3 cheers.
Thank you.
Always having good news from you. So you're good to start with.
It's the goal. It's the
Great.
goal.
Great.
I mean, because when it's bad, you can make it good too.
Eve, can you help her up? Okay, great. Terrific. So, bye. Thanks. So do we have a Mr. Sci-Fi question yet, David? Nope, nothing. Okay. So hi everybody. It's good to see everyone. So I guess we can go to Christine. It's your turn if you'd like.
I would like. I actually have to kind of like chat and then leave. I might have to take care of something.
Okay.
But I'm here. I'm going to see everybody, and I can't actually, physically be present. Which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I did some work on a film in that incident.
And for some reason your volume is very low. I don't know if you need to speak up or turn up the volume or something.
You guys don't have a separate microphone. It's just on the computer.
Huh. Okay.
Is that better if I get closer to the microphone?
A little
Yes,
bit.
huh?
Yeah.
Thank
Sure.
Anyway, so I don't really have an ask. I just wanted to say hey and wave at some people.
Great.
See Judith online. I know that's important to her.
Mm-hmm.
And be supportive of David and Dave.
Great.
Say hey.
Hey.
That's
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Well,
3
good to see
cheers.
you. I'm sorry.
Yay.
Have we lost Judith entirely?
Yes. Yes. For now.
Okay.
And so David, are there any Mr. Sci-Fi questions yet?
Not any questions yet? No.
Okay. Then we'll just continue on. Dave Edison, do you want to chime in?
Sure, let's do that. Hello, everyone. It's me, Dave Edison, the editor of Space Command, etc.
Great.
Among the I have I'm all taken care of now. I've got some people opted for Moderna
Mm-hmm.
or Pfizer or Johnson and Johnson.
Yes.
I just to go with the Masters and Johnson,
Hmm.
so I'm just waiting for the side effects.
Yes. Well, so it's a good thing that the camera's above the waist.
Yeah.
Yes, just a little bit of soreness at the entry point, but that's to be expected.
Yes. I thought you were going to have the Jonas Salk vaccine.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Go with that.
Yeah.
Go to the Mayo Clinic. Mayo Clinic. That's a whole other thing.
Okay. But go ahead.
Hold the mail.
Mm.
Actually, I'm getting the second Pfizer on Monday.
Mazel tov.
So yeah, so none of that is true, including the stuff that I made up.
Okay.
So, but we're just I'm looking off to the side here because I'm working on eyes. Me and James Hong just do eyes.
Yes.
I'm making Android doors, synthetic doors, eyes glow. Doug Jones,
Mhm.
and
Cool.
it's a slow process, but it's getting along, and that's about it for the week. Nothing too crazy. The new system is working just fine.
Good.
Great.
Great.
Forward, we're getting stuff ready, works and things for the Kickstarter campaign.
Cool.
And little bits and pieces around, hovering around the edges as well.
Good.
So everything else going well with the Space Command on your end, Mark?
Yeah, everything's everything's good. No complaints. All is well. So I'll check in shortly about me, and we can go from there. So thanks. Anything else? Anything else, Dave?
No, that's it for me.
Okay.
Stay healthy, and I'll talk to all of you soon.
Yay! 3
Yay.
cheers. So is there a Mr. Sci-Fi question yet, David?
Well, more of a statement, but it's something you could talk on the topic of.
Sure.
Elaine B says, we made oxygen on Mars.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
it's great. It's great.
Yes, that is.
And because that,
They also have a helicopter. that
Yes.
parked.
yes, second
it's-
flight. Second flight.
yeah,
It
it's terrific.
was 10 feet landed.
Yeah, and Moxie made the atmosphere, made the oxygen. So they're taking CO2 and breaking it down into oxygen and carbon monoxide, and that is very good because obviously, if people are going to live on Mars, and if we're going to be able to make rocket fuel on Mars, we need to be able to have that capacity. So,
and
so it's
carbon monoxide is important in case we want to commit suicide on Mars.
yeah, that's a little, which is how Elaine gets the nickname Miss Sunshine. Yeah, absolutely. So
That little helicopter jump.
yeah, but that'll bring new meaning to the phrase "take the gas pipe." So take the gas pipe to Mars. So okay, good.
That was a historic event. That little flight. It doesn't
Oh.
seem that impressive.
Oh
when you
no,
think
it's
of it.
great.
It's a first.
It's neat. It's neat.
So neat.
So so cool. So where are we? I've lost my place. Yes, I answered the question. So so I guess Bill, if you want to take your turn, go for it.
All right, everybody. I am oil painting here,
Oh, lovely.
and yeah, and I'm enjoying that. So I pitched in with David's blessing. I came down and worked at the studio
Great.
on Monday, and then I promptly developed a tooth abscess the next day.
No.
Yeah.
Swollen still, and it hurts, but that's fine. What in terms of my needs, what I need is this whole goatee post-pandemic. So my old headshot did not have this, so I need a new headshot. If anybody has any advice on a good headshot photographer in LA, I'd appreciate it.
Well, that's where putting out an email to the table, I'm sure you'd get a lot of recommendations. In the old days, it would have been Jim Metropole, but he's not in the best of health right now. So, but yeah, I'm sure you can get good recommendations, and you really want that because what most headshots do wrong is they don't capture a sense of the person. The eyes aren't alive, and it takes a really talented photographer to really catch the life in the person's face and expression. And without that, it's a very dead photo. So,
And,
I had a ball working with David. That was
Fun.
such a good experience, and I'm going to go do it again.
Great. That's great. Well, thanks.
You think you were blessed. We're the ones that were grateful that you came.
Yeah, that's great.
That's great.
Thanks so much.
Well-
So anything else you need?
No, I'm good.
Great.
My dad, way back when he was still a young man and alive,
Yes, well, there's that.
he used to do portraits of people, and his trick, because the old camera,
Photographic portraits. Yeah.
portraits, and his trick was he would be pretending to be fiddling with the focus and that, and while he was pretending to be fiddling with the focus, he would ask somebody something that would require thought about something that they were enthusiastic about, like what made you think that you first wanted to get involved in your profession? And just as they would start to grasp it, he would take the picture.
Yeah.
And he had the best
Yeah.
Best pictures.
Yeah, but again, as Elaine pointed out, he's not available right now.
No, he's
Being
he-
sort of kind of deceased. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
a few decades. Yes.
One of my favorite things in that regard is there's a very famous photo of Winston Churchill by Karsh, where he looks like this indomitable bulldog. And the way Karsh did that was Winston Churchill had a cigar in his mouth, and Karsh reached over and pulled it out of his mouth, and Churchill was so angry at that he's, he gave that expression, and Karsh clicked the shutter. So that's pretty great. And I also remember he took a great photo of Nikita Khrushchev in this big furry hood, and because he remembered that Khrushchev had grown up a peasant, and so he put him in this big fur winter coat with this big hood, and Khrushchev just loved it. So it really was a great photo of him, and a very unusual one. And but Karsh was a terrific photographer, and so if you've never seen his work, go online and you'll find some great portraits.
How's that spelled?
Karsh.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Elaine, I've been meaning to say how envious I am that you get to work with Barbara Bain.
Oh,
Cool.
yeah.
It's fun.
I was so in love with her when I was, I don't know, 15.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So, but no, she's
Okay.
terrific. We really love having her as part of our ensemble.
So, do we have Judith quickly?
Are you there, Judith? We can't hear you.
Can you? We were not hearing you. Can we grab you while we can grab you?
Oh,
shoot.
Her lighting's pretty good.
yeah.
Yeah, the problem,
There we go.
the problem is
Oh, there
that
you are.
the nurses who are computer savvy are handing out drugs to everybody. I got mine first.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So,
Judith,
okay.
so how's everything going? Any requests?
Things are moving along fine. I'm feeling much better, as you can see.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of doing some stuff, which I've spoken with you about.
Mhm.
And Christine has been absolutely the most incredible human being and has been helping me tremendously.
Mm.
And David helped me with Decree, which I was sorry to lose, but
That was the dog.
We'll get me another puppy.
Yes,
Yeah.
we will. We
Get
will.
me another puppy.
Great.
And I'm looking forward to going home in about a week or so.
Well, great. Okay, great.
Yay.
Well, it's good to see you as always.
Yeah, and what a game girl. She's coming to us from her convalescent home.
Hospital, yeah.
My hospital bed.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
so weak. Oh, I'm so white. I'm so pale.
Well, there you go. That's that you can have that on.
Spaghetti meatball for lunch.
Yeah, you can have that on your reel.
Yeah.
So, okay, great. Anything else, Judith?
Nothing much. I'm
Okay.
just, looking forward to doing the work and
And I did.
moving on. I'm covered. I am covered for someone to help me
Great,
in the house.
great.
Get that done and get back on track as soon as possible.
Cool.
And I just spoke to Angelique, who is going to make sure that you get re-recorded
Mhm.
into the radio play.
Yeah.
into the,
Thank you.
The table
yeah,
read.
Table read.
Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to that. That's one of the few things that's really keeping me going. I'm going to get off now because I've got to eat.
Okay, great.
But I will see you soon. Dave, how are you, darling?
Well, Dave is great.
Mr. Edison, I haven't spoken to you in weeks.
Yes, I'm fine. I see you're not quite up and around, but you're around.
I'm getting there. This arm is like huge. It's absolutely huge.
Well, yeah.
But that's okay. I wish my boobs were the size of my arm, but then again.
Well, there you go.
Well, who doesn't?
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah.
I don't.
She's dying over there. Christine's dying over there.
Yeah.
We hear you're indestructible, so that's nice to know.
Okay.
Well, yeah, to some degree. To
Yeah.
some degree. They call me the monkey here.
Well, that's great. That's great.
All right, let me go eat.
Okay.
I love you all. I'm so looking forward to the work and
Great.
everything.
Okay. 3 cheers. Yay.
Bye.
Bye. Feel
Bye.
better. Feel better.
I will. You better believe I will.
Good.
Okay.
So,
Bill, did I
oh.
cut you off before you finished?
Me? No, I'm
No.
good.
Oh, good.
That's
okay,
great.
Okay.
Okay, yay, Bill.
Bill.
And I see Adam Sartain has joined us, and
Oh, Adam.
there he is.
Briefly, I just made David Bartlett the host.
There we go. Okay, you made David the host. Okay, great. So,
Did you miss the discussion of Judith's boobs?
no, please, let's not go back there. You know, that's a memory we can all put behind us.
Yeah.
So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David?
Well, Gregory Krug actually wants to know if you can ask Dave Edison a question.
Oh, sure.
Gregory says
Sure.
he is a funny guy who used to do stand-up. Who are some of his favorite stand-up comedians?
Wow.
A lot of them are, and how did you know that? A lot of them are people who you've never heard of. Guys like George Calfo, who's no longer doing stand-up, was just a hysterically funny guy. D.F. Sweedler, who still works at the comic strip in New York, which just reopened, is brilliantly funny. But there's a lot of people out there whose work I admire. Stephen Wright, always loved Woody Allen's stand-up. It's a pretty long list. Generally, the people who are really wordsmiths and who can craft a sentence, craft a joke really well are great. But there's some physical comics too who are like Abner the Eccentric, who are just worth looking up on YouTube, and very many of them.
Great.
Cosby was great in his day.
Yes. Yeah. So okay. Anything? Yeah. Well, there you go. Okay. Anything else, Dave?
That's everyone.
Okay. Great. Oh, there you go. So great, terrific. So I guess David Bartlett, you're next by process of elimination.
I suppose so. I've got 3 Mr. Sci-Fis, and there's one for me, one for you, one for Elaine. I guess that's the right math.
Okay.
Okay, I'm David Bartlett. I am a filmmaker, a teacher, and a human rights activist, and a producer on Space Command.
Yay.
Marc Zickery has never given up on this project. Neither is Elaine, of course, but he's the one that really is driving all of us. Sometimes to joy and glory, sometimes a little crazy, but most of the time to great success and wins.
Great.
And this week we have a couple of those right around the corner. One is we have approval for our 7th Kickstarter campaign.
Yay.
It's a fascinating story of, I'm going to write a book on Kickstarter campaigns one of these days, because I learned a couple things I didn't know. Like, you have to put all the perks that you've delivered in the Kickstarter list for each campaign. Ours were all blank. So they said, you haven't delivered any perks. So after we added them all up, we found out we have delivered over 48,000 individual perks.
Yeah.
Over 6 campaigns.
Right. Unfortunately, it's to one person.
Yeah.
That was just the one for the one, yeah.
Yeah, the one guy. I mean, he had to move out of his house to just filled with Space Command stuff.
To click the mouse that many times to get him all of his perks, but we did it.
Yeah, lucky guy.
So in any case, that's happening. So about myself, I have a career as a filmmaker since 1980. I moved to LA. Made my first film when I was 10. I worked in films, some films of my own, and also plays in high school. I was also an actor and a singer, and I did some dancing. I was actually a decent dancer for having no real training. My sister had started dancing when she was 4, I think, and she owned her own dance studio for years. And
wow.
My family, my brother is a very talented musician and has now got 2 Oscar nominations for mixing sound on films. He mixed The Life of Pi, and he mixed Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah, great.
And he's worked with Ridley Scott. He's worked with all these famous people that are awesome and incredible. And I got to go to the Oscars with him in 2013, and maybe that's the story I'll tell today. That was a lot of fun. So I started making films almost right out of the gate when I first moved here. Worked in a bunch of big movies as an intern and an assistant, and then I worked on a bunch of low-budget movies as a set carpenter with Jim Cameron at Roger Corman Studios, New World. And then I worked on the studio system in sound design on Speed and Pulp Fiction and Total Recall and a bunch of films like that. And then I started doing independent films of my own. And now I have produced, directed, written, cinematography, or edited on I don't know how many films, 140 features and something like 70 or 80 shorts or something. I've been one way or the other involved with all of them, and I just got my 65th Film Festival award last week.
Wow, great.
The Kaushik Chattopadhyay is not here this week because he is in Houston right now, and he's going to go on to his red carpet of his first film festival, and he's going to. Houston's a lot of fun because when you go there, you know you're winning something when you go there, and then there's different categories. You find out which one you won at the awards banquet. We don't have any banquet, but they're giving the awards out somehow. But the next day is cool on Sunday, where you get to ride on a yacht in a yacht race in Houston Harbor with other filmmakers and get to know them, and then you go to the Houston Space Center and see Apollo 18, which never flew, on its side in a big museum outside, which is cool because you can stand right and you can touch the Saturn V rocket, which as a 10-year-old boy, when we did the moon landing, that was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
See that Saturn V rocket and be able to touch it. That was like super cool to me. And then you go to this little party and stuff afterwards and have some local crawfish and Zydeco dancing. And it's really a fun little thing for the winners of the film festival filmmakers. So Kaushik experiencing that right now for his first time, which is fun. I did a film with him and I would go myself, but I can't for different reasons. So let's see. What else was I going to say? I had another story. I guess that might have been a good enough story. So I'd say, Inessa is my assistant and she's awesome. And she suggested I tell the story. There's at least two people here tonight that have not heard this story. The story of the cast and crew screening of Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction was done after Reservoir Dogs was done, which is an unknown film. Then he became, that's the guy that did Reservoir Dogs, but nobody still knew what Pulp Fiction was yet, except the people that had seen it in post-production. I was one of the first people to see the whole film. I think I was the first person to see the whole film outside the editing room. And I just couldn't stop watching the film reel after reel. I was like, oh my God, this is a great movie. So we did the cast and crew screening. It had been to Cannes and it won the Palme d'Or, which is the top prize at Cannes, which is a medal about this big around, okay? So we go into the 800-seat theater and at Disney, the screening room, what's the name of the screening room? I can't remember now. Anyway, it's the main screening room at Disney, and it's packed. It's all the people that worked on Pulp Fiction. So Lawrence Bender, the producer, comes down. He's like got this sort of long rock and roll hair and a suit coat that's kind of, like a corduroy and a business shirt, real chill, jeans, talks real kind of quietly. He comes up and he says, hello, everyone. I'm Lawrence Bender. I'm the producer of Pulp Fiction. Everyone laughed, They said, the director is kind of shy, but he wants to say a couple of things. And everyone starts laughing. And Quentin is striding full speed down the aisle. He gets to the front and he goes, all right, I want to tell you guys something. We had the screening at Cannes and they wanted to give it out to the press and have screenings. I said, no one's going to see this film until the cast and the crew see this film. This film is for you, and this screening is for you. And he holds up the box and opens it up, and it's the Palme d'Or Cannes Film Festival. And he says, and this is for you. And he sits down, and everyone cheers, and we see Pulp Fiction for the first time. And that was one of the most exciting things I've ever had, happen in the film business. It was electrifying. And people couldn't believe what they had done when they saw the film finish. They're like, wow, this is really, it really came off in a way that was pretty remarkable. So that's my story for this week.
Great. So anything else?
We have now Space Command.
Yay.
Space Command has room for more volunteers. Bill White, who's our honorable volunteer of the week this week, he came and helped, and he was lifting things and moving things, so I didn't have to do it by myself. By the way, Elaine's not there, but
no.
I tried to remind me about this when she gets back.
Okay.
So we're moving sets around, we're painting things, and we're doing different kinds of physical activities for like 5 hours. And I looked up and I was like, it's 7 o'clock. We worked an hour over without even noticing. So that was kind of cool because we got a lot done. There's more to be done. There is a big meeting happening in a week with the cinematographer and one of the set designers and a visual effects person and some other people to come in and talk about how to handle the future of the construction of the sets and the lighting, which is like the next step for us to be able to shoot with these alien spaceship sets, which are pretty cool, I have to say. So I have to get ready for that, and I need help this week doing that. I'll be at the studio. And if anybody wants to come down, Nina, or Lauren maybe, or even Bonnie, I'm looking at you guys here, or anyone else, I would be happy to have your help. Anyway, so I'm looking for volunteers this week. I also have the need of a runner who has a car That's the whole thing about being a runner, is you need a car and someone to take care of some shipping and whatnot, different kinds of things around the studio, and that's a paid position.
Mhm.
So if anyone's interested in that or knows anybody else that might be, you can turn them on to me. That would be really helpful. So now, let me see, is there anything else news about, we've got our visual effects are moving forward really great. And we've got set construction. We're planning to shoot in August if the COVID frees up by then, which maybe, it depends on the Screen Actors Guild, frankly, but it's very possible we'll be able to film something in August. That's what we're shooting for.
Mhm.
We've got a whole plan of attack ahead here and a way to get it done. So that's cool. That's what's happening in Pulp Fiction. That's what's happening with Space Command. That's funny. Now, the other thing is the table email. I will put in the chat here my email. If you want to get on the table email, or you want to volunteer for Space Command, or you want to work on a paid position with Space Command, you can contact me. It is Dave Films, DAVEFILMS @hotmail.com.
Cool.
Again, I'll put it in the chat, and y'all can have that there if you want to. If you know anyone else that might be interested and you want to have some fun working in the studio. We have a bunch of construction foam that's very sticky, but it's going to be building the alien set walls. We'll be doing some work with that, and that's a lot of fun, actually. Very creative and playful to do that, believe it or not. And that's kind of it.
Okay, great. Yay, 3 cheers.
Yeah.
So is there a Mr. Sci-Fi question, David?
Yes, Todd Chamberlain says,
Hi, Todd.
I noticed that it was Eddie Albert's birthday.
Yes.
He was born in 1906, and I know that he was in Twilight Zone and Ray Bradbury Theater, amongst other sci-fi things. Any Eddie Albert stories?
Sure. He was actually in Outer Limits, not Twilight Zone, but he was great in it. It was an episode where aliens are in these tumbleweeds and things. It was terrific. It's a terrific episode. He's a terrific actor. He had an incredible range. He's best known, of course, for Green Acres, which is a wonderful show that I grew up watching. And but he had quite a range. He's in Roman Holiday with Gregory Peck and is quite memorable in that. He was the first American actor to play Winston Smith in 1984 on television. And I just posted this on Mr. Sci-Fi, and he does a great job. And he also, he was, very, he sort of was very well trained as an actor, and you can tell. And I remember when I interviewed Richard Albert, who directed a number of Twilight Zone episodes, he directed every episode of Green Acres. And I said, what was the biggest challenge directing Green Acres? And he said, staying awake. So that was very funny. But if you've never seen Green Acres, definitely check it out. Eddie Albert was very distinctive, very memorable. He and Ava Gabor had a great chemistry on Green Acres. They played off each other very, very well. And, I'm glad that he worked in a medium where we can see his work over the course of a number of decades, and thanks to YouTube, you can see a lot of his work if you just type his name in. So, and if you've never seen Roman Holiday, it's one of the great films of all time. Audrey Hepburn is just spectacular in that film. And that's about it for now, for the answer to that question. So, Bonnie, I guess you're up next.
Hey, all right. Hey, smaller group today.
Yes.
First of all, Dave Edison, Mike Lopez called me today and said he's going, I guess he's now would like to get my ideas on music, so I don't know how close you are to the next cut.
Well, I've been trying to do it to do changes on weekends and or late night, but I got some notes from Samir, and I spoke to Mike as well, so we're trying to trying to make everyone happy. Tamir is the director. Mike is the producer and screenwriter and one of the actors in the film. So before long, I can get you a new cut, or I can send you the existing one, which is going to be pretty close.
Okay, that might be helpful, because then we would like to get some ideas on what I think music likes. So
Great.
It would be a good
I'll
idea.
send it. I'll send it within next week.
Thanks.
Great.
And let's see, what else am I doing? Working on I can suddenly go blank. That was weird.
Jesus.
The Composers Group had been working on some things. I finished my friend's 366-page book, so we'll do one more proof on it, but it's looking super great. And now she has an opera to input as well. And that may get performed, one of these two may be performed, I think, by San Francisco Opera. I forget where. That's funny. Just, yeah, I'm actually working on a project for, this person wrote this song and asked me mostly to transcribe it. He just entered it in sequence. So I'm doing all parts and making it playable by live players. He says the LA Chamber Orchestra is interested in it. So that sounds good. So I'm turning that over to, delivering that tomorrow, the transcription of that. Just a lot of different things. Always good to see everybody on the table, and yeah, anybody needing music should just give a call.
Great.
Ask, and most of the scores I do are with live players. Not sure yet on Mike Lopez's, but usually I'll use a small live ensemble rather than synthesized. It just adds so much from the players, add their own. It just makes such a huge difference. They have the patience of a saint to write and all that, but to sit and tweak parts that to sound live that I know players could play so much better in an instant.
Cool.
I love doing it that way. So anyway, yeah, just good to see everybody, and say hi to Elaine. No,
Well, we will. No, she's here. She's just walking the dog. She'll be back in a moment. So, okay, great. Well, 3 cheers. Yay. So, David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question?
This is kind of funny. It's from Galinda B.
Okay.
And she says, I'm trying to phrase a question about this Child of Serling cult I seem to have joined.
Okay.
Do I need a membership, or is this kind of an absorptive cult?
Well, the real children of Serling are sort of the showrunners who came up modeling themselves after Rod and impressed in that way by Rod, and that would include Joe Straczynski and myself and Ron Moore and Brandon Braga and Mark Fergus and Vince Gilligan and David Chase and Tom Fontana. I mean, essentially, Rod was the first showrunner in the modern sense, where the writer runs the show, the writer-producer. And so that's when I'm referring to the children of Serling, that's what I'm very specifically talking about. But of course, there's another interesting theory, which is that all the kids who became the really disruptive hippies of the late 60s were kids in the late 50s, early 60s when Twilight Zone was on. And so Rod's view of humanity and reality and this disruptiveness of the Twilight Zone in its basic thesis, there's a strong opinion to be held that the hippie generation very much came up under Rod's tutelage, and so Jerry Rubin and the Chicago 7 and all those guys. So it's an interesting theory and probably has some merit. But it's funny because frequently, like at various points when I've been interviewed, some people have asked, interviewers have asked, did Rod take drugs? The answer is no. Did he believe in UFOs? The answer is no. He did drink because he was that Hemingway kind of World War II kind of guy. So he had boxed in the Golden Gloves in the military, and he smoked like a chimney, of course, and that was one of the factors that ultimately killed him. And was not a major dismaying alcoholic, but certainly drank like the characters in Mad Men, but that was very much that generation. So anyway, that's sort of the answer to that sort of roundabout. So let's see. So Lauren, I guess you're next on my screen if you want to take your turn, if you're there. Well, maybe not. There. Are you there? There we go.
Yes, I'm currently in production on a project called Doing Laundry at Home. So, so you can come back to me. I'm not going to chat just in the middle of this present.
Okay, sure. So we can come back to you. Is that what you prefer? Okay,
yes, thank you.
Great. So, sure, you bet. So, Nina, do you want to take your turn?
Good morning. I'm back to my laptop. My husband had to use my Zoom camera, so I didn't have the wherewithal to get it back. Last week helped a lot.
Good.
And so I've been digging at finding community and sending out things to theater companies. I'm a theater brat. So, you know, that's where my roots are. So besides in Gray. And so that's what I've been doing. I'm an actress, I'm a singer. And that's all I can claim to know that I know something about at this juncture. Been watching a lot of sci-fi because of you guys. Oh my guys. But I love sci-fi, but it was really interesting because now I'm watching it with a totally different perspective. And much more, the distinctions are just different for me now. I feel really small. And watched a horrible film, Shadow, blah, blah. The one with Chloe Moretz, wasn't it? Came out. It just came out. It was
Shadow in the Clouds. Shadow in the Clouds. The one set on the B-2024. Yeah.
Oh my God! It was the worst. I saw it because it intrigued me because it was to me it looked like it was based on the Twilight Zone terror or horror at 20,000 feet with William Shatner.
Yes.
It's loosely based on that. Except she kills everything and then nurses the baby and then kills something after that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And that's it.
Okay.
You guys are awesome. David, just so you know, I'm in Chicago. I would be there in a heartbeat to help you guys, but the commute would kill me.
Okay, through cheers. Great.
But if you need anything that I can do in Chicago, just let me know.
Thank you, Nina. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Of course. So, yes.
We saw that film yesterday, by the way,
yeah.
Shadow in the Cloud. We happened to watch it yesterday. It's only an hour and 23 minutes. Wow. I didn't have that kind of a reaction. I thought it started better than it ended.
Yes.
But I thought for a contained film, looking at it from that angle was pretty impressive. Max Landis, son of John Landis, was one of the writers on it. The other writer was the director.
Yes.
And afterwards, we sat down and pulled out the Blu-ray of Twilight Zone and watched Nightmare 20,000 Feet.
Yeah.
Comparison, and then we watched it again with your commentary.
Yes.
With Richard Donner.
Yes, which was very fun.
Which was fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. So and and also everyone, if you can remember to mute your mic when you're not talking, that'd be great. I mean, I watched that film. I thought
he was impressed by your knowledge.
Well, I was. Yeah. Thanks. And
he was impressed by your knowledge.
Yes. Well, I saw Shadow in the Clouds, and I thought Chloe Moretz did a good job, and I thought it was an interesting film. I had a problem with her falling out of the airplane and being blown back into the airplane by an explosion. That's when it really became a Wile E. Coyote moment and blew me out of the suspension of disbelief. But but still, I thought it was very inventive. But of course, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet doesn't compare. That's a brilliant, brilliant piece of work by Richard Matheson and all the Twilight Zone folks, including Shatner, of course, and Richard Donner, as you said. Now, for those who don't know what Dave is talking about, of course, I wrote the Twilight Zone Companion, and I produced the Blu-ray set and did 52 episode commentaries with many of the creative personnel, the writers and actors and directors of Twilight Zone, as well as people like Neil Gaiman and so forth. So, and Matt Weiner.
After seeing that episode so many times over the years, it was fascinating to hear some of the background information about the way it was shot.
Amazing, shot in 2 days. 2 days with and it was a airplane fuselage. There were no wild walls. They had to, do it basically handheld for a lot of the time. It's an amazing story when you think about how they shot it. But the lovely part is that I'm very glad to have been able to produce the Blu-ray set because. And all of the previous home video versions of Twilight Zone, because a lot of the people that I've interviewed, and particularly they also use audio tracks from the interviews I did when I wrote the Twilight Zone Companion. When these people are gone, they're gone. And so to be able to get George Clayton Johnson to do commentaries on his episodes, or Richard Donner on his, or Matheson on his, is invaluable, or Earl Hamner on the ones he wrote. And so I'm very, very, very glad that we got those recorded for the record, because I think Twilight Zone is probably the greatest TV show ever made. And I'm very proud to have been the historian of that great show, and it taught me everything I know. And you know, I'm glad to have been of service. So, you know, so is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, Dave? David. Sorry.
You can check out this Bill White photo he just put up. Do you see that?
No. Nope. Nope.
You don't see Bill White's photo?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay. Over there, I see it. Yes. Great. That's great. That's our part of our set. Good. Okay. Cool.
That's David peeking out from.
Oh, I see.
Photo bond.
I see. Okay. Great. Well, we could certainly do a tie-in with Space Command donuts and stuff. But okay, go ahead, please.
Bob Rich says, "Hi, Mark and Elaine. Who are some movie directors that are masters at story structure?"
That's an interesting question. I would say Hitchcock, absolutely. John Huston is brilliant, hit the top of his game. Capra at the top of his game. Modern guys, maybe Scorsese would be one of the modern ones. Wilder, James Cameron, you know, when he's on his doing his A game. Yeah. I mean, often the best directors were also writers, and John Huston certainly was. And you know, so yeah, there's a lot of them. I mean, you know, Tarantino was mentioned. He's very talented. And so yeah, there's a bunch of them. I mean, if a story makes sense, that meant that both the writer and the director did their job well as the actors. So yeah, so great. So Mark Gushwitz, I think you're up now. Nope, we can't hear you. Can't hear you. Michelle. Oh, are you able to do it? No? We can't hear you. We can come back to you if you need it.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can. Go for it.
Okay, I don't know how my microphone got unplugged. I didn't know you did an audio commentary on Terror 20,000 Feet. I'm gonna have to listen to that.
Yeah.
I just pulled out. I have a signed copy from Richard Matheson.
Oh wow,
that's
I got
fun.
to meet him, and he signed that for me. And I didn't actually know Richard Donner directed it either. He's the one who informed me of that.
Yeah.
So looking forward to listening to that.
Well,
it is one of my favorite episodes.
Well, the Blu-ray has 52 episode commentaries that I did, plus a ton of extra material from my collection. But that's the Blu-ray, not the DVD set. So just to let you know. So okay.
I'll have to pay attention to it because it was one of my favorite episodes. I don't generally like the reboots and the newer versions of Twilight Zone, but what George Miller did a great job with the movie version of that as well. Terror 20,000 Feet. So anyway, so life's been pretty busy for me over the last couple of weeks, doing some editing stuff, not anything big, but pays the bills. That's kind of what matters. Earl just sent me a new sound design on my short film, which I'm hoping is close to done because he seemed really excited about it.
Great.
Told me, I haven't listened to it yet. I haven't had a chance, but he told me of some things he added to it that I didn't ask for, but I'm like, that sounds really cool. I think I'm going to like that.
Great.
So I'm really looking forward to being able to put that in and listen to it. And then we just got to do music and we're done.
Neat. Yeah, that's great. Congratulations.
That's close. I recorded the first episode of my podcast on Tuesday morning.
Oh my!
Which went interesting. I learned a few things with it. The guy gave me a lot of really good information. So when I edited it together, I think it's going to be a pretty good show.
Great.
I was concerned that talking about one movie, I wasn't going to be able to last an hour and a half. So I had all these questions to ask him about his work on the Marvel animated series in the 90s. And by the time we were done talking about the movie, it's like, okay, we've been talking for an hour and a half. I guess one movie we can talk about.
That's great.
For a long period of time. So that worked out really well. We did talk about the Marvel stuff, so I think about putting that up as like an extra feature while people wait for the second episode. Which I had about an hour-long talk with Joseph Doherty on Zoom. We set up a time to record that in 2 weeks. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's kind of what's going on with me. I mean, it's been between my website, my podcast, and some of the work that's been coming in, it's been pretty busy. So I'm happy with that.
Great. Okay. Yay.
Yay.
3 cheers, Mark Agashowitz, ladies and gentlemen. So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David?
Indeed. Mark Lungo says,
Hi, Mark.
Mark, please talk about My Life and Times.
Mm.
What was it like writing for it? What do you think it didn't do as well as it deserved? And do you think a reboot would work?
My Life in Times was a short-lived series that Ron Koslow, creator of the Ron Perlman Beauty and the Beast, did subsequent to that show. And I was a writer on Beauty and the Beast, and also was brought aboard on My Life in Times. It was basically an odd idea. It was about a man. You see him in the if I remember the concept, it was you see him in the present day dealing with some issue, and then several decades in the future, you see him as well, and there's a resonance between the present storyline and the future storyline. And I wrote an extremely strange one where his younger self and his older self encounter each other in this very weird, otherworldly place where death is coming for them. And it was a very cool script. It never got made because the show got canceled, but Ron Koslow loved the script. And but it was an interesting show, an interesting idea, very difficult, because obviously anything where you're predicting a near future, you run the risk of history overtaking you. And so the show really never got its feet under it in terms of popularity, but it was a bold notion, and I enjoyed writing the episode I wrote. So yeah, I think Alan Brenner was, yeah.
I wasn't aware you had worked on that. Do I recall, was that a half-hour series?
I think so, yes. And
like it would be an hour.
I believe Alan Brenner was the story editor, if memory serves, and that was right after he did the reboot of Twilight Zone, and it was a good try. It was interesting because I wrote for the reboot of Twilight Zone, and then George R.R. Martin, who was on that show, then I guess brought me aboard Beauty and the Beast, and then because I was writing for Beauty and the Beast, that led to me writing for Ron Koslow on My Life in Times. So that was sort of how it all worked. And Alan Brenner had worked with me as well on Twilight Zone. So interesting times. I mean, I personally think that whole era of 1980s and 1990s science fiction TV and film was a really, really, really creative period, and I'm very proud and glad to have been part of it. It was a good time to be working. So okie doke. So let's see, who haven't we done? Lauren, you want to take your turn now that you're there on and moving?
Yes. Thank you.
Sure.
First time caller. Honored to be among such esteemed people here. Lifelong sci-fi nerd. The Night of the Meek is my all-time favorite Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah.
And Art Carney did an amazing job. And I actually had the opportunity to interview Mick Foley, the wrestler, because he did a documentary about Santa called I Am Santa Claus. And got to tell him I thought he would be perfect for that role. I know the episode was redone, Mark, in the 80s or 90s.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but the one with Art Carney is really the gold standard, And the interesting thing about that episode is that almost all of the Twilight Zone episodes were shot in 35 millimeter, which is why they look so astonishing. But the second season, they tried an experiment to lower the cost of the show, and they shot 6 episodes on black and white videotape. And ultimately, it was decided that it was too difficult because they had to be on a soundstage, even the ostensible exteriors. It was much more like live television, as they shot it in these 10-minute chunks, cutting from camera to camera in live, basically. And so for most of its syndication life, they took a really grainy 16 millimeter print of the videotape. So it looked like a really shitty kinescope. And it was only in recent years that they went back to the videotape masters and started airing those. And those are what are on the Blu-ray set and so forth. And those are gorgeous, but it's a very different look. And but that was a terrific episode, and Art Carney was spectacular. And at that time he was known primarily for comedic roles. I mean, he'd starred in the Velvet Alley, which was a Playhouse 90 that Rod Serling wrote. But of course, his great role, Art Carney's great role, was as Norton on The Honeymooners. And but he could certainly handle drama, and the Night of the Meek is a great example of that. So
that's wonderful.
yeah.
Just to share projects that I'm working
Sure.
on, I'm actually working with a friend who's the founder of Film Threat magazine, now filmthreat.com, Chris Gore, who I don't know why he ever thought I could do it, but he's letting me be the host of Friday night watch parties.
Wow.
So they're basically like live DVD commentaries that stream. And, you know, not every independent feature is well scripted, well shot. Sometimes it's cringeworthy, but I find the conversations with the filmmakers so different and so much more full of heart and love and understanding.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, yeah. Well, you know, I tip my hat to anyone who finishes a movie. I mean, finishes making one, and I mean, it's really hard. And so I think critics, that you can always have people who kick the shit out of something, but they're not you know, doing the heavy lifting. You know, and so even I think the worst film is probably better than the best review. You know, it's like, you know, critic. You know, who name some critic from 40 years ago? Maybe you know Pauline Kael, but most of them are forgotten. Whereas, you know, some you know, half-baked movie from 40 years ago, somebody loves that film. You know, so you know, and if you're really distinctive, you can make shitty movies and still plant your flag. Like Ed Wood is a perfect example of that. You know, he's so peculiar, but that very peculiarity makes him endearing. And so yeah, absolutely. So congratulations. So what's your big objective in life? What are you trying to do if everything if everything shined well?
If everything shone well, my dream would be to interview people on camera, on mic, and podcasts in front of audiences.
Cool.
It's basically an extension of me entertaining my extended family when I was a little kid.
Sure. That's great. That's great. Well, thank God for the internet. You know, I mean, the internet gives us such a big megaphone, and it's so inexpensive relatively. And so I think, I mean, the fact that I can have my own YouTube channel on Mr. Sci-Fi is such a blessing, you know, because there's so many things I don't particularly want to write a book about or make a film about. But if I can do a little video, like when we were just talking about Night of the Meek, you know, again, it's like, how fun, you know, and it's just really, really wonderful, you know. So so 3 cheers. That's great. So if someone wants to watch do the watch parties with you, where do they go and when do they go?
So they're at 5 p.m. Pacific time,
Mm-hmm.
and you can go to filmthreat.com.
Great.
There's a YouTube channel that's got them, and they're actually live on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, and basically it's a service called StreamYard.
Great.
Where while we're watching the films on a second screen, people can post questions, and it's basically
great.
like DVD commentary with a live audience.
That's fun. And you know, it's interesting because you know, something I mentioned in the new book I've just written is that the age of DVDs and Blu-rays is really a golden age of understanding films. I mean, you have directors and actors and writers doing film commentaries. This may not be forever, you know, as DVDs and Blu-rays fade from the scene. That opportunity to hear such a detailed analysis and breakdown about films and TV shows, that, you know, may not remain, and it's a shame because it's phenomenal. I mean, not all directors or writers are articulate. It's very easy, if you're not careful, to fall into sort of a blow by blow, like, oh look, he's about to open the door. Yeah. Oh, there's the killer. It's like, no. People know the film. They don't need to hear you describing it. They're not blind or deaf. You know, it's like it's you know, say something extra about that. Say something about how it was made. You know, and
the commentary where they talk about what it was like on set and what they did for lunch, that has nothing to do with the film.
No. And that's why when it was a very interesting challenge to do 52 commentaries on the Twilight Zone, because what I did was I was very specific. I would have extremely extensive notes. I would be talking about very specific things. I would be very careful not to get into just describing what was on screen or getting into minutiae or trivia. But also what I did was I would sit with whoever was my partner on that commentary, whether it was you know, George Clayton Johnson or whomever. And what we would do is we would watch it all the way through first without doing the commentary. And then it was so fresh in our minds, it really brought it alive when we would then do the commentary after. What we do is run it first with the sound so we could hear it, and then we'd kill the sound and run it a second time with us on mic. And that was great. That was great because it would, and the fascinating thing was that often they would tell me things that they hadn't told me when I'd interviewed them for the Twilight Zone Companion. Like one of the things that George Clayton Johnson told me on Nothing in the Dark was that he inadvertently ripped off a story by Ray Bradbury. And that was and then after that episode aired, he had to go and apologize to Ray, and Ray forgave him. That was very interesting. And I was very glad to get that on the record because I thought that's what had happened, but we'd never discussed it. So, and George had not revealed that when I interviewed him first, when I was in my early 20s. So really interesting.
Are any of those admissions in the third edition of the Twilight Zone Companion?
Yeah, in the new edition. That's why I wrote the new edition, because so many people told me stories like the fact that Doug Hayes ghost wrote a scene in Eye of the Beholder. I mean, he never told me that when the first edition of the book came out, so it's like really interesting stuff. So Lauren, anything else you need? Any other questions or anything?
No, I'm here to observe and hear wonderful stories, and hopefully join your ragtag team of
of gorillas.
merriment.
Yeah, exactly, of rebels. Yeah, absolutely. And if you're not on the table email, David Bartlett can get you onto that. There's thousands of table members. We've been running this every Thursday for 28 years. So off we go. So yay, 3 cheers. So David, is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question? Not that we haven't been doing that all along here.
Indeed. Kevin Scott says, do you guys believe in reincarnation? If so, what are you supposed to learn this time around?
I don't believe in reincarnation, or really an afterlife, but I'm willing to be surprised. So, so like if there's a heaven and we see all of our old dogs and our parents and all that stuff, our loved ones, that'll be great, but what's your thought, Elaine? Do you want to come back as a butterfly or a sloth?
No, I mean, I respect that as a belief system, the possibility of evolution, but no, I'm one of those, doubting
Skeptics.
Thomas,
Yeah,
skeptics.
yeah, but the one thing that's amazing is that life is a miracle. You can't deny that. Life is a miracle. Consciousness is a miracle. It's a blessing, and so it's clear that there are things we don't understand that are beyond our understanding.
But I think it is important to learn as much as you can right here and right now.
Yes, I think you have to act as though this is the only one you get.
Yeah,
because otherwise you're going to be fucked.
So I remember when I was like a young and a kid, and older adults, adults would be doing things that I thought were sort of appalling.
Yeah.
And you feel kind of helpless saying, oh, gee, I have no power because I'm very young and they're older, but they're really disappointing. But then I realized, I said, oh, I can have power in that I see what they're doing wrong and I can make sure that I never do this. When I'm a grown up, I'll be a grown up.
Yes.
And so, learning from other people's mistakes and then taking it on, that you have the power to change it for others as you get into that position, it's both empowering and enlightening. So I think, learning our own lessons is critical.
Yes, that well said. So, okay, let's see. Michelle Hart, I guess you're next on my screen. Go for it.
Oh, thank you.
Sure.
Let's see. I recently signed with a commercial agency, and they've actually gotten me an audition.
Yeah.
And you always say, what is it you need? And what I need actually is some help after this. If somebody would get a hold of me who knows what the hell they're doing, because I clearly don't. What they asked for was 2 different versions of a specific scene, and then 2 different versions of a little improv piece and a slate. And they want this, that's fine, I've recorded those, and they want this all put together on one chunk and put into Dropbox. And I do not know how to assemble them into one thing. She said she doesn't want a whole bunch of separate little pieces. She wants one whole chunk. And I have little pieces and I don't know how to edit them into one thing on my phone or wherever it is you're supposed to do that.
Does anyone know how to do that? Edit together little...
Yeah, get an editor to help you do that. Anyone that has rudimentary editing skills can do that.
Well, it needs to be in, like promptly.
Yeah, well, you can promptly ask for some help from an editor.
Okay, well, I will call you on the phone after this is over.
Good.
Is that a good?
I wasn't suggesting myself necessarily, but there's at least two others on the phone right now, and you can send a letter out.
Yeah.
The table email might get you some help too.
Yeah. I mean,
You have the clips ready to go, or are they things that I already?
No.
Talk to me.
This is selfie stuff that I just did.
oh, okay. Well, just
Send to me. I will slap them together, willy and nilly.
You see, that's what I'm talking about.
I'm not totally. I will talk to you after this because I'm not totally certain how I would send them to you.
well, Dave. Yeah, Dave can tell you, and
Okay.
Okay, great.
We'll talk afterwards.
Good.
Dave is a little busy. You can reach out this way too.
Great.
I said if Dave is a little busy, because I know he's really busy, you can reach out to me as well.
Oh, okay. Thank
Mark,
you.
I'm up wherever I am on your screen.
Great.
Would you, Mark? Would you put your email, your personal specific email on the chat? Because I don't think I have it.
Great.
Okay.
Great.
Michelle, I would be happy to help you right now, but I absolutely cannot help on a last minute like that right now. In the future, no problem.
Great.
It's and I'm sorry that this is a last minute thing, and it was not something that I wanted to bring up in the table, but the audition thing came in yesterday, at which point I was dealing with bringing my car and at the end of a tow truck and spending a great deal of money. And it backed everything up as life does. I
got it.
Basically have lost 2 whole days out of my life to car problems. So everything isn't backed up. Thank you, Mark. I will write this down.
Cool.
And I'll get it after. Thank you.
Great. Yay. So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David?
Yes. There's a film called Caspian Seas. Gregory Krug wants to know if you've ever seen it. He ranks it on his top few greatest movies of all time.
Great. I'll have to check it out. No, I haven't seen it. I'll look it up. Sure.
I can ask another one right now if you want. I've
Sure.
got a couple back up.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Gregory, let me see here. Herbert Thornton, Mark and Elaine, long time no see. Settle a bet for me. Babylon 5 or Deep Space Nine? Which came first? Your favorites? Question. They both debuted the same year. And Joe Straczynski feels that the Paramount executives ripped him off. And, they then suggested to those doing Star Trek, how about a space station? I can't verify that. I'm the only writer who wrote for both shows. I think they're both interesting. I think they both have something to recommend them. I think they're both worth watching. And they actually, particularly Babylon 5 had an influence on Deep Space Nine because Joe plotted out the basic structure of the 5 seasons of Babylon 5. And as Ira Behr saw the value of a continuing storyline where you knew where you were going, he started to bring that kind of a continuing storyline and a story arc into Deep Space Nine. And I think Deep Space Nine it was certainly the better produced show. It had more money, over twice the budget, and a studio behind it. But I think they're both good shows, and I've used actors in Space Command from both shows, Armin Shimmerman and Ethan Phillips, and let's see, I've used Armin Shimmerman from DS9, I've used Mira Furlan, of course, and Bill Mumy and Bruce Boxleitner from Babylon 5. I mean, I think the Star Trek shows, the different Star Trek series, as well as Babylon 5, as well as many other shows like the recent Battlestar Galactica, have many talented actors and some very, very talented writers. So, so I think both shows were good, and I think they proved. In fact, I was just writing about this yesterday that that just because a show is set on a space station doesn't mean that there can't be 2 of them, because they're so different in tone and intent that there was room for both of them to succeed, and they did. So there you go. So okie doke. So let's see. So I think, Tamir Yarden, I see your name on the screen if you want to take your turn.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
So, not much to say. I'm an actor, producer, writer.
Great.
And I want to give Dave Edison a shout out because he is on the brink of locking out picture. So he's amazing. An amazing about the process. Very patient. And we're done, and I'm excited about a film called You'll Be Okay.
Okay. Great. Great. And by the way, just make sure that everyone mutes their mics if it's not their turn, so that we don't get a lot of feedback. So, so anything else you need, Tamir? Any other requests or anything?
No, just you. Sorry, just here to support. That's it.
Great. And again, you can get on the table email if you'd like, and that gives you access to over to several thousand members around the world. So it's a very powerful tool. So, but welcome. 3 cheers! Yay! So is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David? And for those who don't know what we're doing a simulcast with the table on one monitor and Mr. Sci-Fi, my YouTube channel, on the other. Great. Terrific.
Yeah, this one's a lot of fun. It's a little long to hear all the different, several people chime in at once, but check it out. So Scott Baker, Mr. Sci-Fi, have you considered incorporating dance into Space Command? Star Trek Voyager had a species that used gestures and postures. Could dance be used as a form of communication, like the hula? And he says if he does that, he wants to audition for one of the aliens. And then he says, this question intended by the universal mind to inspire someone, possibly Marc. Could you adapt the art form to match an alien, truly alien, non-humanoid life forms? Do you choreograph? And yes, I think there's a good way to this concept of totally non-humanoid species using precise movements to communicate. We're onto something. So this is what the chain said here in the in the chat.
Yeah, it's sort of like a runaway jury. The dance is very risky in science fiction. More often than not, you end up with an absolutely ludicrous dance sequence. And if you want to see one of the most ridiculous dance sequences of all time in science fiction, there's a German TV show from the 60s that is, I think it's called Space Patrol in English, but it was called Orion. It has a very elaborate name in German, and I was actually approached by Roland Emmerich to adapt it decades later to come up with a new take on it. But the pilot episode, the first episode of this thing, had the most silly dance number, not deliberately. It was trying to be serious. It was just ridiculous. And you remember that, huh? You're like, oh yeah. And
there was something going on in the background, and you couldn't concentrate. It was supposed to be just a modern version of a social dancing, and you were trying to. There was like just exposition in the foreground,
ridiculous.
And in the background, you were seeing these laughable moves, and you couldn't. You missed everything.
But that said, in Fugitive Space, we're creating aliens who are basically like vertical 8-foot tall octopi or squid. They're very inhuman. They're invertebrates, and they communicate via chromatophores, via glowing lights on their skin. So they don't speak. So that's like almost like a dance of light on their bodies.
But in terms of movement, even in Space Command, the aliens that we created are going to move in a way that's
very different.
That's very different. You cannot figure out how a human could move like that.
But I think it's going to be a while before we have a conga line on Space Command. So, but you never say never. So, okay, great. And Ming Cheng, I see you're there. So how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So this week I have a question about the director and the composers.
Sure.
So recently I composed for a project, but somehow the director composed for me, like telling me what kind of instruments I should use, or tell me how to mix the music. Since we're doing like a Zoom time, sharing the section with him. So could you give me some advice to keep my work still like creative?
Yes.
But also gently protect his warm heart.
Yes. Well, there's a quality that you'll encounter over the course of your career in some of the people you work with, and it's called stupidity. And so this will be in fact, in the chapter of my new book, I actually have a chapter on working with stupid people and how to do that. What I tend to do is I tend to choose people who are talented and let them follow their enthusiasms and then course correct if I need to. but many people don't know how to work with their team, and so they micromanage. And this is usually a big mistake, particularly with music. But sometimes it can lead to really bad consequences. For instance, Bernard Herrmann worked on many films with Alfred Hitchcock to great success, on Vertigo and North by Northwest and so forth, Psycho, and even The Birds. But then on Torn Curtain, Hitchcock said to him, I don't want any horns and no brass on this score. And Bernard Herrmann then turned in a score that was entirely brass, and Hitchcock fired him and replaced him. And what I would suggest is, if you can work with the musical palette he's suggesting, try, because the more you can work with people, the better, without compromising your vision. In other words, never do crap, never do a bad job, no matter what. And if it doesn't work for you, then you say to the director, this doesn't work with me. I can't do it. On the other hand, if you have an idea that you think is superior, it's absolutely fine to say to your director, hey, listen, I had an idea, and if it doesn't work for what you have in mind, that's fine, but let me run it by you. And that's fine too, because often when people, if they're smart, when people hear a better idea, they'll go with it. And I frequently do that. Elaine and I both do that. When we hear a better idea, or even an idea that's as good, but our team is enthused by it, we'll say yes, because the reason I'm not a novelist solely is because I want to work with other people, and I want them to have input and be able to utilize their creativity. If they're not able to use their creativity, it's a great disservice to them. So what I would do is, if you had something in mind that you had wanted to do that's very different, do a temp, do a temp track or whatever, and send it to him. If, on the other hand, his suggestions in terms of musical palette, if you say to yourself, okay, I can work with that, then do. But if he's giving you suggestions that don't work for you, you must tell him, because otherwise it'll come across that you're not working in a way that you really feel fully vitalized, and alive.
One thing that you can sometimes offer for someone to do is they get married to an idea in their head, which is frequently too much like something else they heard, that they shouldn't be using if they're not a composer. But if you say, that's very interesting, I had a slightly different take, would it be all right if I did something that followed your take, but did my own take as well, and we let it sit for a while, and then we listened to it, and we had a few people listen to it?
Right.
Because it's easy to get close to something and not be able to see something fresh, accept something fresh. So if we get
but again, don't ever push it to the wall. In other words, he's the boss, and either you work with him and find a creative solution, or if you can't, you withdraw. I mean, it's not, there are many people that I can't work with because we just don't see eye to eye. And some of them are talented, and some of them are idiots, and some of them are both are talented idiots. But if we're not going to meet, ironically, one of the people that I absolutely could not work with because our viewpoints were so different was a producer named Michael Piller. He was the showrunner on Star Trek: The Next Generation. And the irony is that after I sold the story to him for Star Trek: The Next Generation, we learned that we were second cousins. And so it was very funny that of the two guys that I absolutely could not work with, he was one of them. And it wasn't that he was untalented. He was a very talented man, but we just saw things so differently that an idea I would have wouldn't be something that would resonate with him. An idea he would have would be something that wouldn't resonate with me. It was just different taste. And that was fortunate that, we could be friendly, and we certainly were, but that's how it went. So, so those are some answers. So anything else? Any other questions?
Very good. Thank you. I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you for that advice.
Yes. Well, good to see you as always. Yay.
Thank you again.
You bet. Is there another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David?
They're piling up.
Uh-oh, look out.
Let's see here. We've heard of, Scott Baker says, we've all heard of comedic improv as a form of nightclub entertainment. Would it work for drama?
Wait, say that one again. Run that by me again.
He says, we've all heard of comedic improv as a form of nightclub entertainment. Would it work for drama? I think he's asking if you could improvise drama as nightclub entertainment.
But God knows. I mean, that's sort of what. Probably not. I mean, it's
Was that mumblecore?
No, it's not. I mean, if you're talking about something like improv, where you'd go to like a theater and they'd put on a play and they'd take suggestions from the audience, it's hard. But when you're filming, sometimes you might want to do improv, but generally not. Usually by the time you get to shooting, you want it to be nailed down. And sometimes if you have a good take and you say, well, just kind of, go off on a tangent there or something. I mean, I tend not to work with actors doing improv because I don't like it, because usually I find it fake and stupid, and very few actors can do it well.
The one situation in which I know it worked was a filmmaker who did a British film called Secrets and Lies.
Well, Mike Leigh, he does that ongoingly.
But the way he does it, which we couldn't afford to do in this system, they could afford to do it in England, is he had a very specific outline and a very specific character breakdown. And then the actors and he would improvise the detailed scene over and over and over until everyone was happy over a long period of time. And they really started to feel at home in it. And then they would shoot that.
Right.
But it would be something that was formally agreed upon. So it was a combination of his outline and much work.
Yes.
But it was not something that was just casually created.
But that said, one thing we commonly do is we say to our actors, if there's a line in the script that gives you difficulty, or if there's a way you'd rather say it, let us know. So we have that conversation before we're shooting. Some people, like Joe Straczynski, insisted that his scripts be done exactly as he wrote them, and like the actors couldn't change and to but or anything like that. I don't believe in being that restrictive, but my actors absolutely need to know their lines. I mean, if an actor comes on set and they're not prepped, they're not going to be around for long, because I mean, it's one thing to be struggling with something or whatever, or flub it, but I don't respect anyone who comes onto the set not having done their work. And but the other thing is, if an actor wants to change the line prior, for instance, we're having a Zoom meeting with Mike Harney next week to go over the script, the pilot of Sweet Haven that he stars in, and he'll tell us what he thinks, and he'll make suggestions and he'll ask questions, and some will probably say yes to, and some will probably say no to, and but ultimately we call the shots, so that's how it works. But okay, great. So now it looks like it's your turn, Elaine.
Oh, really?
Go for it, Elaine. Go for it. Yay, Elaine.
Just finishing up Tigs and Tags and working away and trying to get I have a lot of product, trying to get it out there so I can actually get behind a camera and shoot some of it.
Yeah.
So that's just what I'm in the process of doing.
We're trying to get her films made. We're trying to attach actors. We're trying to get producers aboard, all sorts of stuff. I mean, they just shot her pilot. They have, I think, another day or two of shooting.
Well, it was something I did a rewrite on. It wasn't.
Well, it's the script that you ended up writing and getting all the actors attached. And
I didn't get the actors attached.
Yes, you did.
No, my DP who ran it, he would contact me and say, I'm going after this actor that I'm talking to. I need a character description that will sell him on the role.
Right,
so
and a scene. You were also writing scenes that actors would enjoy. Anyway, Elaine was made it work. So don't diminish your contribution. But so they shot it. It's a big pilot, and with action and stuff happens and so forth. So anything else? Any other questions? Any requests?
I'm good right now.
Okay, yay, Elaine. So another Mr. Sci-Fi question, David?
Yeah, there's a few here. We could probably do two.
Okay, sure.
One is interesting to me. Fit to be Read. That's the name.
Okay.
Have you read Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro? And do you think it failed at attempting to do it in doing Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, a robot series, and Frankenstein did?
What he's talking about is the author of Remains of the Day and Never Let Me Go, or whatever the hell that was called, the Clonus horror remake. He's written a book, a new book about a female android, essentially. And I have it on request at the library. I don't particularly want to buy it. I'm going to listen to the audiobook because he's not one of my favorite writers. I thought Remains of the Day was really bleak, but but I'm interested in it, yes. And once I read it, I'll have an opinion. I try not to have opinions before I read something. So yeah, so that's my answer to that. And you said there were 2 questions, David?
Yeah, it's fit to be read. Fit number 2 be read. I did it wrong.
Okay.
That was his name. Cyberno at Mr. Sci-Fi.
Okay.
Do you have any Harlan Ellison stories? I've been compiling a book of them, and I'm using them to flesh out a character. Having never met him, I'm looking for more of the inner person.
He was an amazing man. There's one of a kind. You know, I drew a portrait of him when I was a teenager that he used on his website as on the landing page. The portrait I drew of him, which is actually on the wall behind Elaine. You probably can't see it. It's okay. Never mind. But he was a huge inspiration for me, very, very influential in my life. But from City on the Edge of Forever to recommending Clarion to me, all sorts of stuff. We knew each other very well, and I on Mr. Sci-Fi, I've done a number of commentaries about Harlan, particularly when he passed away. I think I did about 30 minutes talking about him. So I would absolutely check that out if I were you. I think almost anyone in science fiction, if you reached out to them, they would have Harlan stories. Neil Gaiman, Joe Straczynski was one of his proteges, on and on and on. I mean, you know, he was incredibly memorable as a character, as a writer. He had a huge impact on the genre with Dangerous Visions. He was a Roman candle. He had a very fiery temperament. And you know, Elaine and I used to joke that Harlan would burn his bridges while he was on them. And you know, so yeah, so that's some of it. I mean, a biography of Harlan came out recently before he died, but I have a copy of that. I haven't read it all yet. But Robert Silverberg was a very close friend of his. You know, I mean, go to any convention and ask people to tell you their Harlan stories, and they'll have you, you know, listening to them all night. You know, he was one of the great giants of science fiction.
The documentary.
Yes, there's a documentary on Harlan as well. I don't remember. Yeah. Dreams with Sharp Teeth. Yeah, you can find that on you know, one of the streaming channels. And again, that's well worth watching. I mean, he was endlessly interesting. The sad part is he really, in science fiction, you can make a name for yourself with short stories, but to really establish yourself long term, you needed to write a novel that would stand the test of time, like Fahrenheit 451. And Harlan never wrote a novel that had that kind of staying power. And so, although he wrote some very good short stories, he knew by the end of his life that he would be largely forgotten. And at his memorial service, they had a quote from him that sort of summed up his life, which was very sad. And the quote was, "I was here for a time, and I mattered for a time," you know. And so that's rather sad. But you know, I'm really glad I got to know him. I had ups and downs with him. He was definitely someone that was a two-edged sword, to say the least. And but he made a lot with what he had, definitely. And so an admirable fellow ultimately. So there you go. So okay, now I guess it's me, wonderful me, yay! So so today I finished the first draft of my new book, Greenlighting Yourself. So here it is, and it's 300 pages. Look at that. Wow. So the next step is I have to read it and make notes on it and then send it to my publisher. And as soon as we come to agreement about the manuscript, they'll publish it, and it will be available in bookstores and online and wherever you know, fine books are sold. So so it's good to get to this point. I've sold, with the exception of one book I've written, I've sold every book I've written, and that one I'm still determined to sell as well. But no, I'm glad I wrote it. Greenlighting Yourself is about how people can have careers and not wait for the studios or the networks or the publishers to wave the magic wand and make their dreams come true. It's how you can do things now to do that yourself. And I tell stories from the lives of Guillermo del Toro and Ronald Moore and J.J. Abrams and so on and so forth. Stories these people have told me personally, and they're very, very, very instructive. And you know, I have one chapter on having a life. I have one chapter on recovering from failure. I have one chapter on building upon success. I have one chapter on working with stupid people, as I said, on and on and on. And yeah, I think it's a lot of people are going to enjoy the book, and I think it's going to do well. So beyond that, with Space Command, we're moving forward on visual effects. We're moving forward on sets and creatures, and we had a table read on Sweet Haven. I had a good meeting with an Amazon executive a week ago. We had, everything's moving ahead. The Showrunners Network, all 6 projects are moving ahead, and the special Mira Furlan issue of Space Command Comics is nearly completed, so we'll be publishing that soon. And we're launching the crowdfunding campaign very shortly to raise the money to roll camera on Space Command in August. So tell your friends, and and I'm going to be doing a lot more commentaries on Mr. Sci-Fi. I just read Marc Gushwitz. I just finished reading Rosemary's Son. And I'm very, very glad, because I watched Rosemary's Baby, which I hadn't seen since I was a kid. It's a great film. And I discovered that Ira Levin wrote a sequel. So Marc mentioned that the ending, when he read the book, the ending so upset him that he threw out the book, and I'm glad you told me that, because I went on Wikipedia and read what the ending was. There's 2 possible interpretations of that ending, one worse than the other. But it's definitely a very weird ending. And yet there was a lot I found of value in the book. I thought it was very, very interesting in how it delineated the rise of a messianic figure in the modern day. I thought that was very, very interesting, and so I liked it. I enjoyed it, actually. I think Ira Levin is one of the great unsung talents of science fiction and fantasy, because he wrote Rosemary's Baby, Boys from Brazil, and The Stepford Wives, and those are 3 very influential books. And
Did you read Sliver?
I haven't read Sliver. I sort of think I don't know. Is it good?
I liked it. Just don't see the movie. They actually change, who the bad guy is in the movie.
Okay.
Stupid.
Yeah, good.
You don't have to rush out and see it, but if you pick it up,
right.
I thought it was worth the read.
For those who don't know, there is a wonderful service online. What is it called? Hang on one sec. It's I'm going to get it here because I think everyone will benefit from it. Hold on. It is called Libby, Libby. And what it is an online library of hundreds of thousands of books. And you can sign up for it with your library card wherever you live. And it allows you to download Kindle books for free and audiobooks for free. And it is spectacular. They have a huge amount of material. I'm constantly listening to audiobooks. And there's also, of course, Amazon's Audible audiobook service, but that you have to pay for. But I mean, my God, almost any book you can imagine is available via Libby for free. So I highly recommend that. And but everything else, we're working along on stuff. It just keeps going. It's pretty remarkable. So now I see Earl has shown up as our hopefully last person. So Earl, if you want to have your turn, and then we'll sign out.
Oh, I guess I caught everyone right at the end.
Yeah,
huh?
you did. You 10 more minutes and we would have been gone.
Earl F. Smith, multi-award winning film composer, sound editor, sound designer. Exciting week. We started talking about budget for the next short film that I'll be working on.
Great.
As a composer, and actually going to have some money for some live players.
Cool.
Wow.
Going to be hiring a string quartet and orchestra bass.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be playing piano, doing the piano recordings.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty excited about that.
Wow.
That's about it.
Okay.
I'm done with Marc's film.
Cool.
So that's coming together real nice.
That's great.
But that's about it. I'm just checking in.
Cool. Well, great. Well, it's good to see you.
Yeah.
Yay, Earl. Yay.
Thanks for the good news.
Maybe when Marc's film is done, we can have a little screening with the pandemic over, where we can get together and watch the short. So I'd love that. I think that'd be great fun.
That would be real nice.
Yeah.
The next film, I'm gonna record the players. I'm gonna most likely do it at CSUN in the hall there.
That's great.
So I have really good acoustics.
Wow, that's great. Well, 3 cheers. Good to see you as always. So yeah, and maybe we'll finish David Bartlett with one final Mr. Sci-Fi question, if there is one.
Sure. There are two little ones.
Mm-hmm.
One is more of a comment.
Okay.
He feels that Scott Baker says, "I'd love to see the young woman who played Naomi Wildman join Space Command."
Which character? I don't know that character name. I don't know who that is.
Character.
Which what? Which? Who's it? Who is it?
Naomi Wildman.
I'll have to check that because I don't know which show that's from. So
just look that up.
Yeah.
The other one is kind of funny. Max Payne says, "When shows have run out of ideas, they do a musical episode." I absolutely agree with Mark. The idea of dance is just difficult to not look ridiculous. And I did remember more than one funny dance section of Star Trek.
Yes. Yes.
And one good one. There was the one good one.
Yes. Well, in the original Star Trek,
Yvonne Craig.
Oh, what? Say that again.
Going with Yvonne Craig. That one.
Yes. Well, the best dance sequence in Star Trek ever was in the first pilot with Jeffrey Hunter, where oh God, what's her name? The Susan Oliver is painted green and does that dance. That was spectacular and wonderful. And the music in Star Trek, they had a song that Uhura sang called Beyond Antares with Spock playing on his lyre, and that was really great. And then in the Space Hippies episode, they had songs that were really embarrassing, and the Space Hippies episode is an embarrassing episode, but I have to admit rather shamefacedly that I know the lyrics to all of those songs. So having been a kid at the time, and so they are burned into my memory, and whereas I probably would have used those brain cells for curing cancer or something, they're now being occupied by those song lyrics. So there you go. So but
Naomi Wildman.
Yes.
In Star Trek Voyager.
Okay. Huh. Okay, I'll have to look for that. I'm not familiar with that character. Yes, Dave?
Have you seen the Susan Oliver? I guess it's Susan Oliver. Have you seen the documentary?
Yes.
On her,
Yes.
The Green Girl?
Yes, it's really good, but very sad. And but yeah, she's one of my favorite actresses. I loved Susan Oliver. She's amazing, and she's incredibly wonderful in the first Star Trek pilot. It's she's really, really spectacular. One thing to note about the first Star Trek pilot is NBC was owned by RCA Victor. And at the time, RCA Victor was trying to get people, mid-60s, they were trying to get people to buy color televisions. So one of the reasons they picked up Star Trek was because it had bright primary colors. And if you look at the first pilot, many of the actors they cast had brilliant blue eyes. That includes Jeffrey Hunter and John Hoyt and Susan Oliver. But it really is very, very, very distinctive. And it's something to watch next time you watch the first Star Trek pilot, the one with Jeffrey Hunter playing Captain Pike. Really interesting. So, okay, well, I think we've come to the end of our journey for the night. And thank you all for being here as ever. Stay safe, stay well, and we will see you all next time. Bye, guys.
Have a fun night.
Bye, you too. Okay, take care, guys. We'll see you all very, very soon.